Test 1, 2, test 1, 2.
Check. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve.
The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve.
Take one.
Hopping right into another podcast, and thanks for joining us. See our program on the World Wide Web, thevocalminority.net, and of course, we've got a ton of socials for you to check out anytime.
We do. You can find us online, YouTube, Twitter, X, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, TikTok.
We keep going back and forth on whether or not we're going to go with Truth Social. I think in this political climate, we should just jump on there and see what happens.
Well, you know, if we do end up adding a conservative voice to this mix, or if we just end up pranking them and doing some conservative segments, I really think one of these shows, we should do a story how we would normally do it, and then just tell the audience, like, all right, guys, we're going to do something here, and then just do the exact same story the opposite way. We post that on Truth Social. I guarantee you it would take off. They suck it up so easily.
I think you're right, dude. I just watched that episode of Seinfeld, Bizarro Jerry. You know, I think we should do a Bizarro show. I think it would get a lot of clicks and views.
We'll work on that. So, yeah. But, yeah, find the website, the social medias. And we have a comment line, which some of you have been ballsy enough to call, but not all of you. So give it a call. It's 844-48-VOCAL. You just leave a message. We'll play it back on the show. You know, we're not going to expose your home address or grill. You know, it's harmless.
Yeah, we're just putting you on a stand and giving you a voice, dude. Don't you want to have a voice? That's what people are always talking about. Why aren't people listening to me? Why doesn't my point of view count? Well, here at the Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve, it does. So.
And we've been accused of another bunch of white guys with a podcast, but we're sharing it with you. When we started this as a radio show in 2001 or whatever, that was the whole premise. It's why it's called the Vocal Minority, people. That's you. It's the people without the platform. It's the minority out there. We let you get vocal. So we embrace it. We welcome it. Use it.
Please, dude. We don't like everyone to agree with us. We want to... Here's the truth of the matter, dude, is I am all about learning. I'm going to share an experience with you that I had just this past weekend that really was kind of a teaching moment for me, and I'm still processing it. I'm still going through it. But I was over in Cle Elum, Washington, for the 4th of July holiday, okay? We are driving down the road. We come up to a car that's parked in the middle of the road, and it's got its flashers on. And there's 5 people standing outside the car. So I stop. I pulled up in front of them, and I stop. I said, "Are you guys all right? You need help?" There is a cooler that this older Hispanic woman had ran over. She speaks no English, and she's just dragging it down the street. So I said, "Do you have a car jack? You know, we could get it out of there." She doesn't. So I grabbed my jack, put the car up to get the cooler out from under her car.
You jacked off in front of all these people?
Yeah, more than once, dude. I put it up and down. But listen, all of these people are driving by. They have to pull into the opposite lane of the road to get by this obstruction, okay? They are rolled windows down. Get the fuck out of the way! You fucking idiots! You're gonna cause an accident. Well, her car's immobile. I mean, it's disabled. It can't go anywhere.
Right. She wasn't just parking there? That's weird.
Right. So I'm thinking to myself, I am in a further eastern side of Washington State where it looks like where you live, dude. I see plenty of Trump flags, Trump signs. My immediate thoughts are, isn't this the fucking small town? We help each other, you know, we're good to people. And here I am, a staunch liberal, you know, out in the fucking 98-degree heat, jacking off for this woman, right?
That's a really good point. You know, try that in a small town. It is supposed to be about rallying around your fellow man in the small little town you're in.
Yeah, what happened to the town where you still helped your neighbor, you know, stuff like that. So as I'm driving away, I'm thinking about it, and Rachel's making comments to me because there were 3 or 4 cars that, you know, revved their engines and yelled out the window.
Wow.
So as I'm processing all of this and talking about it, I start thinking to myself, you know what? Why? And I don't know the answer to this question yet. Why do I immediately put that as a party line thing? Right? Why can't Democrats and Republicans be assholes? Truthfully, I don't know their party affiliation. I was quick to assume I'm in this area, you know, probably Trump supporters, that type of thing. But that's where we've gotten to as a country. of where I don't think Democrats can be assholes anymore, but I do. But I immediately went to fucking Trump lover, you know?
No, I think it's probably an accurate assessment. There are certainly things that everyone can be assholes about. But when it comes for like empathy or helping out your fellow man, Republicans have almost made that a branding that we only give a shit about ourselves. So it's probably a correct assertion.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. I that's what I thought too. And I'm trying to step back from all of these notions that I've fallen into and say, at the very least, I still need to think about it, you know, because I'm just programmed now. When I see a bad person, like fucking Trump lover, you know, and that's a bad thing too. You know, you're probably right that they probably were, but is that the first thing I should think about?
Yeah, I mean, not in the good old days, but we're not living in the good old days. And yeah, I did move to northern Nevada. It's a conservative area around here. I'm not too far away from Reno, which is one of the liberal-leaning parts of the state of Nevada. It's Vegas and Nevada, Vegas and Reno. That's the reason Nevada has gone blue barely in the last couple of elections.
Right.
But yeah, I'm in a smaller town, and there's this restaurant. You, the one I took you and your brother to when you were here recently. It's a nice new place, Great Basin. Check it out if you're in the neighborhood. But there's you remember how there's like outdoor seating? We didn't sit there, but you saw like there was cornhole area and outdoor seating.
For sure.
I was out there eating the other night by myself, and I was there for maybe 30 minutes at the most. And while I was sitting out there eating, two different times, two different pickup trucks, which again, red flag to me, is probably Trump supporter. Big jacked up pickup trucks, little dick pickup trucks, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
They drive by and just lay on the horn to all these people just sitting outside eating. And I don't know if they're pissed at this new business or they're just assholes and just want to, you know, scare you while you're sitting there trying to enjoy a beer and a burger. But why would you drive by a restaurant full of local families and just lay on your horn like that? You're just being an asshole. There's no real reason for it.
America.
You just want to stick it to anyone they could stick it to. I was behind one of those little dick trucks the other day with my son in the car, and the dude had a custom smokestack installed in the middle of his truck, and it was just blowing black smoke.
Yes.
And Cross was like, why would someone make a truck that way? I'm like, well, they don't. You have to go out of your way to customize it, to bypass the exhaust system, to just pollute as much as you can, because they just want to stick it to the libs.
Yeah. So watch me in my diesel pusher, dude. I'm going to smoke you out. Certain political parties. So I've never seen a liberal do it.
No, and this is kind of where America is at right now. We really are a house divided. There are liberals who, for the most part, are good people that have empathy and look out for others, and the other party just seems to be proud of being very myopic and very just rude, and they always want to own the libs. Everything is about sticking it to the libs. They don't care if it's factually based or not. They just want to stick it to you.
Do you really think that? This is my honest question, because I always think of my brother, who I'm close with, who is on that party line, a Republican. I always think to myself, like, I don't know if that's what's most important to him. I know some of the ideology behind the Republican Party is important to him, but I don't know if it's sticking it to me. I don't know that that is even in his top 5 list. You know what I mean? So if he's not, other people have to be, right?
Well, others definitely are, and I would probably argue, even if your brother's not, and I haven't gotten that vibe that he's really trying to own the libs or whatever, but the organizations he follows, Fox News or Newsmax or, you know, conservative commentators he may like, that's absolutely what they're trying to do.
Yes. Yep. Agreed.
So,
Sure.
You traveled abroad recently. What was the perception of Americans?
How fucking stupid we are right now, you know, of what are you guys even thinking? What are you doing? History repeats itself. You guys have something that the world idolizes as politically. They think that we're too good for everything else. We don't know what we have, and we're idiots.
Yeah. The part of America they do still like, though, is our music, our pop culture, our movies. And those do tend to be run and controlled and, you know, starring more liberal leaning or at least center of the road types of people. You know, we pointed out before, the right has Ted Nugent and Kid Rock and Kirk Cameron or whatever from growing up.
Yeah, Scott Baio. Yeah, that's your crew.
Your crew. We got everyone else. All of the stars.
There's a reason they call it liberal arts. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason for that.
Yeah. So speaking of the perception of America, and we did just have the 4th of July. Happy birthday, America. It's your last one. So, well, but yeah, there's a lot of divisiveness going on, a lot of politics, and it has amped up the perception of Americans around the world, and generally not in a good way. So I stumbled across this article here about myths about Americans that everyone needs to stop believing.
Ooh.
And I'm curious if we think these myths are true, and if we're worthy of, stop believing them or not, or if we've earned some of this stuff.
Yeah. All right. Whip it on us, because my thought is that we're going to think most of this stuff, yeah, that really happened, or that's true, or yes, that's not a myth.
Yeah. The first one, and I guess if you only see America through the eyes of movies and whatnot, maybe you can see why this is true, but you and I will both laugh at this thoroughly. All Americans are wealthy. We're all on yachts. We all have mansions. We're all living the good life over here in America.
That's not true, obviously. But now, is it relative to a third world country?
Well, to third world, yeah, but to England or to Australia, is it?
Yeah. No. I mean, when I went to my last trip to London, there's so many rich people in London. There's a ton of rich people, but I would never think that, everyone here is rich. I mean, that's quite the blanket statement to make.
Right. Now, you have been to Dubai, which I never have been, but how much money that's not America. If anyone doesn't know where Dubai is, how much money it is in Dubai, and do you think they're all wealthy?
No, they're not all wealthy, but I mean, they have some of the wealthiest people on the planet. There's so much wealth circulating through Dubai. It's crazy, but it takes poor people to make rich people. Okay. I mean, and that's the truth of the matter for anywhere you live. And there's a lot of poor people in Dubai that are, make those people very wealthy.
Yeah. I mean, on one level, when you look at Dubai, some of the, monumental skyscrapers and these cool features they built over there can only come from money. And you look at America with our failing bridges and roadways. I don't know why you would think we're wealthy per se, but I've spent many years of my life living in Lake Tahoe, which everyone assumes is a very wealthy area. And there is money up at Tahoe, but it's the haves and the have-nots. Somebody has to wait your table or clean your restroom if you're a rich person. You have to have both sides of the coin. It can't just all be rich people.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's true for anywhere you go. Before I went to Dubai, I asked people, like, what should I do in Dubai? What should I see in Dubai? So many different people told me, like, go look for, people over there will just buy a Lamborghini, and then when they're done with it at the end of their vacation, they'll just trash it on the side of the road. Just leave it.
Yes.
And that's true. I mean, you don't see them everywhere like some may want you to think, but it's true that it does happen. The amount of wealth over there is crazy. But I'll tell you what, the guy who picked me up at the airport and took me to my hotel had a long conversation, unsolicited, how amazing it is that I'm an American. And when he found out my wife was an attorney, started asking her if she would sponsor his family to bring him to America because things were so bad there for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even with all of our divisiveness going on, everyone still does seem to want to be here. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
right.
Next thing on the list here, these are myths about America that everyone needs to stop believing. This is sad that it's the land of the free. The idea that America is the ultimate land of the free is more of an ideal than a reality. While it's a land of opportunities, with cities like New York attracting dreamers worldwide, the notion of absolute freedom is complicated, social and economic inequality being top of that list. And there was some old punk rock song that if you think America's free, then go into a deli and piss on the counter and see what happens to you.
That's a very gray term. I mean, listen, comparatively, once again, to other places in the world, are we a free people? Oh, you bet your ass we are. But that doesn't mean we're free to do whatever we want. There are some guidelines and restrictions and laws, for crying out loud.
Yeah. And if Trump does win this fall, I'm not sure how much freedom we're actually going to have anymore. So this may become an antiquated notion of good old America. They used to be pretty free. Then King Trump took over. How about this one? Everything is bigger in America.
No.
When it comes to housing, I mean, my limited exposure in other countries, I don't see mini mansions and McMansions in all these other countries. We do seem to have pretty big fucking houses for a lot of people in this country.
Yeah, you know what's the biggest thing in America is our people. We're all fat. Our portion sizes are bigger. I would agree with that. But if you go to other countries, dude, I mean, they may not populate an area in the same way that we do. That we can spread out in so much of our real estate in this country. They may build up, but if you go over and go to Tokyo, like, you're going to see huge buildings, dude. You're going to see huge skyscrapers that we've never even attempted to build. It's not true.
But are there like 10,000 people, though, living in that huge skyscraper? Or like in New York City, does somebody have an entire floor to themselves?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that, go back to Dubai, dude. See some of the things that they build over there. And I guess the wealth creates where you can have the whole floor. But, I mean, not everything is bigger. I don't agree with that.
Yeah. You brought up a good point that this article highlights. The belief that everything is bigger in America is not entirely wrong. From huge food portions to oversized cars and expensive homes. The oversized car thing, I mean, that almost has to be true. These big fucking unnecessarily large trucks that I am so sick of, having to go around in parking lots because their ass is hanging out because they couldn't possibly fit in that space. I mean,
100%. That's one thing I noticed. I drive a truck, and it is not one of those big jacked up trucks. Like, you look at my truck and you think it's fine. But so many parking places over here are so difficult for me to get in. When I was over on the eastern side of the state, more people drive those trucks, and the parking places were all much larger, spread out. It was nice,
Interesting. And speaking of the rich guys in Dubai with their cars, one of my cop videos that I love watching where they pull over people, and most of them are entitled assholes. This cop pulled over this one guy who was he was Middle Eastern, and he had some high-end sports car. And the cop was pulling him over because he didn't have any sort of U.S. state plate on it. It was some international plate.
Yeah.
And the guy tried to explain that, oh, no, when my family comes over, we're from Dubai. And when we come over here, we import our cars so that we have them to drive around for a month or two. And the cop was like, that's not a thing. You cannot import a Lamborghini. And the guy was like, no, we do it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, we do it. I've seen that. I've seen those videos, and it is. The cop didn't think it was possible, but yeah, we do it. How nice would it be to be that rich, dude, that I traveled with my cars?
Right. There's one dude's channel I watch just because he gets pulled over all the time. He's part of this Lamborghini. He owns like a dealership that deals in these things. So he's got company cars that he's always out cruising around. And there are some cops that really fucking hate people that have high-end sports cars, and they will just pull them over and harass them and ask for every piece of paper they can find and cite some reason that they, deserve a ticket. Someone called, said you're speeding. Did you get us on radar? No, someone called though.
Yeah. I was pacing you.
And for the most part, people that have Lamborghinis are sort of douchebags, but doesn't mean they deserve unfair discrimination against them.
That's the truth, right? That would be how we're a little free. That's how we're free.
Yeah. I was in Vegas recently, and somebody pulled up in a Lamborghini, and I just immediately think, douchebag, rich asshole. Why do you have to have that car? Like, really?
Yeah. And why you have it, keep it on the track. If it's really just for driving fast because you love the performance of a car, drive it on the track. You want attention. That's why you have it out and about on the streets. Yeah, for sure. And these just blatantly oversized trucks. I don't know where this trend is coming from other than the small dick complex, because it just seems impractical to have to climb into your truck and you can't park on any parking space. Driving that thing in a city, I mean, geez, why would you make life harder for yourself just so you could show off your big truck? I always have to think of, where would I be able to park? Where will I be able to get in and out of? Are the garages going to be too low for me? That type of thing. So yeah, it is a pain in the ass. Yeah. All right. Myths about America. Are they myths? Are they not? This one's a double-edged sword, if you ask me. There's no emergency health care in America without insurance. That's not true. No. I mean, you know what? We do have laws in place that if I show up at the emergency room, whether I have insurance or not, like, you have to make every effort to save my life. Yes. They are not allowed to turn you away if you show up in an emergency room. But guess what? You're still getting a bill. Yeah. And if you run from it, that's going on your credit report. I mean, it's not free health care by any means, just because it's an emergency. No, in fact, you could say it's much more expensive healthcare because when you go to the emergency room, they bill the shit out of you. You hear all the horror stories of, $600 for an Advil. Like, that's crazy. But that's the truth of how they do it. Weren't you just reading an article to me about the possibility of taking medical bankruptcy, stuff like that off of your report?
Yeah. So Biden and Harris, a couple of weeks back, they announced this, and then, I don't know, it didn't seem to get much traction. They should be announcing this repeatedly, especially post-debate here. But they announced that they were going to, I don't know if it's a law or a executive order, but that medical debt would no longer count towards your credit score. And that's a huge thing because most people's bad credit is from medical debt. So much so that a lot of people that approve loans will unofficially kind of look the other way at medical debt, but it still brings your credit score down, which is going to make you pay higher rates and maybe not get approved.
Yeah, maybe not get a house. And I'll tell you what, dude, even if you're insured in this country, because of the way our insurance sucks in this country, even if you are insured, I can't tell you how many people I know personally in my life that have talked about, becoming bankrupt from, Walter got cancer. We had to fight this all the way. And then we lost our house. We live in an apartment now, that type of thing. That's a common story in America.
Absolutely. This is one of the only countries where if you get sick due to no fault of your own, you can go bankrupt, you can go broke, you can be homeless. You're well aware my firstborn was born with a birth defect, a non-cancerous tumor. I racked up $70,000 in credit card debt because I was uninsured. Well, let me rephrase that. I was insured at the beginning of that whole debacle. My insurance quickly maxed out because they would only cover like 20 grand or 50 grand a year or whatever it was. But my kid's still sick. I still have to pay these bills. So I started putting them on my credit cards. Then my payments became so high, I became upside down. I just had to walk away from credit card debt, which took me 10 years. I had to wait all that stuff out. And I finally repaired my credit score. But I spent my whole 30s. I mean, I had done such a good job in my 20s of building my credit score up. And then, my kid was born with a health problem and I fucking went broke.
And you're not alone because obviously, you're a parent or you're a kid with an ailing parent. You're going to do whatever it takes, right, to make sure they get what they need. And sometimes that doesn't even happen with medications and everything else. And exactly what you just said, we were talking about like, they'll charge you $500 for an Advil. They do this so they can rack that debt up. And then it does max your insurance out. And then you have to pay this cash because they negotiate all that stuff with the insurance companies. So when it comes to you, there is some negotiations that can take place, but it doesn't happen in the same fashion that it does with insurance companies. So they like for you to max your shit out.
Totally true. And by the way, like racking up credit or emergency room debt like that is one of the reasons why the healthcare is so out of whack, because you got to compensate for the insured and the uninsured. And there was one time I almost died because of this. I've told the story before. I had abdominal pain. The doctor said it was a kidney stone. Go home, you'll be fine. And my dad, who's a doctor, insisted, I want to see an MRI. I want to see that kidney stone. And at this time in life, I was uninsured. And the doctor was like, geez, that's a $5,000 test. Are you sure you want us to put that on your bill? And my dad said, it doesn't actually cost $5,000. The health insurance will only pay you $2,000. So put it on our bill, and you better believe we're going to fucking negotiate with you because this is a scam of a system we all have.
Yeah.
And I want to see it. I don't want to kill my kid because, we're afraid of the bill getting racked up. And that doctor was wrong. I had an acute infection in my colon. My colon would have ruptured. I would have died. But the whole reason that doctor didn't want to do the test was he was afraid of running up my bill because he knows how much they charge for an MRI, even though that's not what it really costs.
Yeah. No, 100%. What is the headline of this? What is the myth that you just read about our healthcare system?
No emergency healthcare without insurance.
Yeah, no, that's not true, but we take it without lube in the ass every single time. There is no friendly way to do it, but are you going to die? Well, yeah, and you still might die, but they got to serve you, okay?
Yep. Now, it's one of the things I hate about America is our healthcare system, and you want to say we're the greatest country on the earth. Well, we may have the best rock bands or the best movies, but healthcare in other countries, 1,000 times better.
Yeah, 100%. And there's all those myths, dude. Every time I talk to somebody who doesn't believe in socialized medicine, talking about, wait, you're going to die with the wait times and everything else. The people that I've talked to in these countries with socialized medicine are like, no, I get right in. I get right in and out, dude.
Yeah. Speaking of my dad being a doctor, he's taught and assisted in hospitals all over the world where he goes to teach techniques and he scrubs in operating rooms over there. And he's told me firsthand experience that is a myth. Now, if you have some sort of tendon tear, tennis elbow, and you got to get a surgery, they may make you wait 6 months. But
Sure.
you'll still get the surgery and it'll still be covered. But if there's any level of emergent care, you're going to get in either right away or within weeks. And if you've called a doctor in America recently, you're not getting it around here within a couple of weeks. Most appointments are months out.
Yeah, I was going to say they do the same shit here. Like my mom has a neighbor that's a senior citizen, and he is a veteran, Vietnam veteran. So he gets his health care from the VA. He had something like you were just describing. His meniscus in his knee was very painful, but he wasn't going to die. They made him wait 9 months at the VA to get that surgery, and it was like a 2.5-hour surgery, dude.
That's a veteran, so that's how we're treating them. So
Yeah, right.
good luck to the rest of us. Myths about America that everyone needs to stop believing. This is a myth about America, and I don't know that it's untrue. All Americans love guns. I don't think all applies to anything. They always told me in school, like if it's a true or false question and it says something like all, it's always false because there's almost nothing that all does. But
Right.
all Americans love guns. I mean, Republicans definitely do, but a lot of Democrats do too. You're a gun owner. You're a proud liberal.
Yeah, I'm a gun owner, but I don't love them to any stretch of the imagination. I don't love them. I don't worship them. If they were taken away from me, I would have a much easier time understanding than other people in this country. I think with guns, when it comes to responsible gun laws and responsibly owning a firearm, it can be an okay thing, but we don't have those right now.
Yeah. Now, yeah, you make a good point there. Do we all love guns? Love is, that's a strong word. I talk about ammosexuals a lot, people that just truly love their gun.
Yeah.
And it's weird to me to love an inanimate object, to be like, I love this pen. I love this pen. Like, what?
Yeah.
I understand it's a tool you can use, but you love it?
Yeah.
So do all Americans love guns? Maybe not, but the majority of Americans are certainly okay with guns. And a lot of liberals and Democrats do own guns. You may not jerk off with them, but you own them.
Right. I think what you're saying is that all Americans love guns. When other nations see us talking about our right to own a weapon and how much that it's the part of every political conversation, that it must look that way. Because if you go to a place like Australia or other places in this world, do they have some guns? Yes, they do, but you don't walk into a big five and walk out with a shotgun. That's not how it works everywhere. Yeah, so, I can see why everyone would think, they love guns. They're always talking about them. And you're right, the majority is.
Again, going back to our pop culture world, obviously our movies. I've got hesitations about guns and whatnot, but I'm not trying to take anyone's gun away. I think we need more responsible gun laws. But there's some of my favorite movies of all time, like The Matrix or John Wick or something, where guns are heavily featured in that movie, and I don't have a problem with that.
Hey, dude, Die Hard. Now I have a machine gun too. Ho, ho, ho. Like we do. We like it. And even go back to cowboys movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's always about that 6-shooter and everything else. So I can see why people feel that way. And it's probably mostly true.
And that, I think, is where the myth comes from, that the good guy with the gun is what we need. That's what's going to save the day. It's because every movie we've watched from the dawn of time in America, that is the theme. Whether it's John Wayne or Arnold Schwarzenegger, the good guy does win with the gun.
It's interesting to think about how our pop culture raises us and shapes this world, our thoughts, our beliefs, what we find acceptable, what we don't. Of course, it's changed over the years, but there has been some commonality in things for a ton of years that we have not let go of. One of them are fireworks in the 4th of July, dude. 4th of July, we were just in a place where, you could light it on fire by just, a little spark, real quick spark. Everything will be up. We're blowing shit up for days. It's going in the frickin', when are we going to get over fireworks, dude? I don't get it.
We love blowing stuff up in this country, man. It's fun.
Yes, it's
and
freedom.
When I talk to gun lovers, the people that really love their guns, when you talk to them away from any microphone, that's what they will admit. I love blowing stuff up, man. You go out in the woods, you pull that trigger, stuff blows up. It's fun. That's why they love their guns. They're not constitutional scholars. It's awesome.
Yes, it's awesome. It's powerful.
And on the other side of that coin, by the way, this is why we have more gun deaths and public shootings and everything in this country, because it is just so prevalent, and it's cat's out of the bag. It's
I would say so, dude. Other countries see all these mass shootings we have and just wonder, what the fuck is happening over there?
Yep. I talked to a parent at one of the graduation ceremonies. I was like, hey, we made it through another year. This is the middle school one.
Mm-hmm.
And the parent said to me, yeah, it's a good year. We made it without a shooting in our school. That's a victory.
That's such a sad commentary.
Yes. But that is the reality. You know, I'm so happy that Neo has made it all the way through 12 years of school, no school shooting. There were scares. There was a day they were threatened that a kid was going to show up, and then a kid showed up to the dance that night and popped balloons, and my kid went and hid in the bathroom crying. It took the police to come in there and tell her, like, there's no shooter. It's okay. Come on out.
Right.
So, you know, they've experienced the scare, but it hasn't happened yet. And now I got 4 years with my son that, I just pray that we can get through 4 more years, because it's America and the next public shooting is coming to a town near you.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's certain.
Absolutely. Fun stuff. More myths about America that everyone needs to stop believing. American food is mostly fast food. America is often associated with fast food. However, its culinary landscape is much richer. Clam chowder in the Northeast, barbecue in the South, fresh seafood on the West Coast, I suppose. But when you try to think of what is American food, there was a great line in Talladega Nights, Ricky Bobby, where he's like, tacos, pizza, like Mexican, Italian, that's, like all of our food really mainly does come from other countries. Besides the hamburger, I don't even know what is American food besides McDonald's,
We could get down to some things with tuna casserole, stuff like that. Like, all the biscuits and gravy, stuff like that we can talk about. Do we have some things? Yes, but nothing stands out like the fucking taco, like the pizza, dude. I mean, all of these things. You think about fried rice, chow mein, like these are things that we are addicted to and love, not American food.
No. I guess we're good at taking other cultures' food and maybe putting a little twist on it or something. But.
Fusion, dude. It's called fusion.
Right. I've been told that if you go to Mexico and try to order 90% of a Taco Bell menu, they're going to tell you none of that is real Mexican food,
Right. Yeah.
The next myth on this list about America that is debatable, Americans don't read. Now, this is a loaded question in some ways, because people ask me if I read. And I say, like, I read a ton of articles, I news stuff or topics I want to research. I read, but I haven't picked up a novel or a fiction, or I haven't read a book in a long time.
I could probably count on both of my hands how many books I've read in my lifetime. I'm 48 years old. I don't like to read books. I've read a few, but like I said, probably on 10 in my lifetime. And most of the people I know in my family, and I think that's what it comes down to. If you have a lot of people who maybe, like Rachel's family, everyone read. Like on a Sunday, they would go sit in the living room, all with their books, and just be quiet and reading. And Rachel reads every day a book, a novel, something. And the way I can see her imagination get into reading a book is something I can't fathom. She's like, oh, it's so fun. It's so much better than the movie. I'm not that person, dude. I'm visually addicted to seeing a story, and that's how I resonate with it. I can't do that nearly as easily by reading a book.
Yeah. I mean, back in school, I always had trouble with my attention span. Nowadays, I feel my attention span is short because of short TikTok videos and stuff. Like, it's gotten worse, but I was always drifting. I can never really just maintain my focus for chapters at a time, and so it wasn't enjoyable. There are some books I've read, but yeah, I do struggle with that. I will say a couple episodes ago, we were talking about things that I think it was things you shouldn't ignore, and public libraries was on the list, and I had said, like, I haven't been to a fucking library since I was in school. But you said you've been to a public library before.
Yeah, and most of the time it's to go with Rachel. She loves the library, dude. And I'll go to the library, and I will check out a book. The kind of books I'll check out are more things like, about repairing watches, stuff like that. Car repair stuff, or learning about a trade or a skill. I can get into that. I can read that. But Lord of the Rings, like, I can't read that shit, dude. I don't want any part of it.
Yeah. I asked Kennedy the other day, like, we were talking about libraries, and Nick says he goes. Like, I haven't been to the library forever. Like, when was the last time you went? And she was like, I go to the public library around here quite frequently. My kids come with me. We check out books. We browse. I'm like, you do?
It would be interesting for you to ask her. I mean, she works in education, so I can see that, trying to pass that down. But did her parents, were they book readers? Is that how they raised her? Because I do think it comes from the way you were raised.
Yep. And she actually has I forget which relative, but he was an author. She has books on her shelf at home that this guy wrote. So yeah, I think she comes from a family like Rachel that probably read a lot. My parents had bookshelves full of books. Never saw them read a book once, but they had a lot of books.
We had the same thing, dude. And you know what? The only place my dad would read while he was taking a poo on the toilet, this is pre-cell phone, he always took a book or a paper in there with him. But I never saw my mom read a book. And she would freely admit, like, I don't read a book. I don't want to read a book.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I was having the discussion with Kennedy about, there's some books I would like to read, but, my attention span of time. And she was like, why don't you listen to audiobooks, ebooks? And I thought, isn't that cheating? I mean, I'm not reading. That's basically talk radio or a podcast. Like, do I get credit for reading if I'm listening to someone else read a book?
I mean, it's like watching a race on TV. You didn't just race, right? But you watched the race. You learned from it. You know what happened. You gained the knowledge of the race, but you didn't race.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Like, I would absorb the knowledge of the book as if I had read it, but yeah, I feel like that's cheating, but she seems to have given me the green light that no, you'll be a reader, quote unquote, if you're listening to audiobooks. So I'm like,
that's
all right.
Funny. Yeah, well, go to Audible, dude. You'll get a little free trial. I belong to Audible. I listen to an audiobook here and there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because I have the same thing. When I start reading a page, by the time I'm to the bottom of it, I don't remember what I just really read in great detail.
Yes. The next question was like, okay, I'm going to do some ebooks. I don't know any books I want to hear or read or whatever. Like, got to look into that.
Yeah, you can find some. If you go to Audible, it's almost like looking through Netflix, dude. And you can find books that'll interest you.
Yeah. It depends who's reading it, too. I have heard some ebooks where other people are listening to it, where maybe it's my broadcasting snobbery, but if the reader is very flat and monotone, I'm just like, that would drive me fucking crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that our world has evolved because there are so many podcasters, non-broadcasters. There is such a rainbow of the way people deliver news and information. But because of that, I think that audiobooks specifically have had to step it up when it comes to entertaining people that way.
Mm-hmm. I did when Kennedy and I were on a extended car ride recently. She put on Eddie Vedder's ebook. And I thought it was great. I mean, it's Eddie Vedder reading. He was ad-libbing it, if we're being honest. I don't think he wrote any of this down, but he was telling stories about the old days, and then he'd pick up an acoustic guitar and play an example of the song he was talking about, and it was great. But to me, that was more like he was being interviewed on a talk radio show than a book.
Yeah.
I think this myth is probably true, though. I don't feel like, I don't know if that's fair. There's a whole bunch of Americans that definitely don't read, and then there's clearly a group that are devout readers. I mean, why would... Amazon started as a bookstore. A lot of people forget that. But
yeah, that's
books
right.
are clearly being bought and sold in this country. So next thing on the list that I'm going to have to probably agree with here, myths about America that we need to stop believing. But this isn't a myth. Americans are workaholics. We work more hours than other countries do. These countries that are doing 4-day work weeks are brilliant. Americans, we've been culturally taught that your work is your identity. And if you're working 80 hours a week, that just means you're a good employee.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I got to say, in all my worldly travels, it's one of the stark differences that I see in other countries comparatively to here is that when I go somewhere and they close for lunch, they close for afternoon because it's nap time. It's socializing time. We're going to sit down and have a 2-hour lunch and have a drink. This is how I look at life and think, gosh, I have so much wanderlust to come here because this sounds like something I can fucking get on board with. We shouldn't have to kill ourselves to retire maybe at 65. And then we see the story happen all too often. It happened to my dad. Finally retires and then gets sick and dies, dude. And doesn't have time to do anything he wanted to do when he retired.
And I think part of that is we're workaholics. We become so ingrained in the routine and the push and the desire, and then you take that away, and a lot of health problems pop up. A lot of people do die shortly after retirement because it's just rewiring your brain all of a sudden. Americans live to work, and foreigners work to live.
That's right.
Did I say that backwards?
Nope, you said it right, dude. Yeah.
How about this one? Every American is rude. I can't imagine where that perception comes from. But
arrogant?
Are we
yes.
rude people?
Are we rude? I don't know. I don't know that we're necessarily all of us are rude. Yeah, we have a lot of rude fuckers. I would say entitled and arrogant would be a better description.
Yeah, is there road rage in other countries like we have here?
I mean, there's got to be, but not to the level that we have here. I mean, I even find myself, dude, I've had to step myself back so much and be like, oh, I gotta stop this. I gotta stop this. Me yelling at that person is not going to do anything different except get my blood pressure elevated, and possibly I may get shot because we love our guns in America.
Right. Yeah, some of these all connect to each other, but yeah, Americans are pretty quick to snap. And again, these Karens and cop videos I watch, I really, this is not stage drama. These are real life body cams. And I've realized a lot of you are assholes out there just from the get-go.
Just from the jump. And it's that arrogance of, you can't do anything to me. I'm not doing anything. We don't admit we're wrong a whole bunch here in America.
No. How about racism is widespread in America? They're saying this is a myth that is not true and we should all forget about it. I would like it if it was a myth, but racism seems pretty live and well in this day and age here.
It's an interesting one because I agree with you on a lot of levels. I think you're definitely going to find pockets in all 50 states, okay? I guess like we said a long time ago on this show, if you're racist in any way, I guess you're a racist, right? But that fluctuates throughout the country. Yeah. Some people are ignorant.
Yeah, listen, there are liberal pockets all over this great country of ours, but it's pockets, all those red states and all the backwoods areas. I mean, to say that it's not widespread, it's not just isolated to one little area or, one politician or something. There's a lot of racism going on, and Trump, I feel like, just completely has emboldened that and brought it out of the shadows. So we are hearing it and seeing it from people that years ago were somewhat smart enough to know to keep those dumb thoughts to themselves. Now it's all out there.
And some people wonder, is it better that at least now I know who you are? You're not hiding in the shadows.
I know people that, I shouldn't name a name, but somebody's ex-husband used to seem to be non-racist and non-judgmental, and then Trump came into office and he started watching Fox News. He started saying weird things about the black neighbors and stuff. Like it seemed to have been boiling under the surface for some people, and then 2016, and since then it's just exploded. So
I'd agree.
Let me throw one more out, and then we'll bang through the list I know you got sitting there. Myths about Americans that we all need to stop believing, that we dress too casually. That's why I dress this way. I'm just American through and through. I'm patriotic, people. That's why I'm dressing like this.
You love your country. That's why you dress like that, dude. It's great eye candy to see how people still dress in other places. But I don't want anything to do with it. Like, I'll look at it when I go over there. I'm fine. I want to see Steve in a t-shirt and jeans, and it bothers me if I see him any other way.
I'm completely fine with that quote-unquote myth. And it is funny, too. I've been watching the Gordon Ramsay show recently, his National Geographic one, where he travels the world and he goes to some exotic location, learns how to cook their cuisine, and he'll be in these pockets of nowhere, and somebody will be wearing a Just Do It shirt, a Nike shirt or a Metallica shirt. I saw this small village in the middle of nowhere, Indonesia, the other day. These dudes were wearing Thor dirt bike racing jerseys. Like, I don't know how these clothing items just circulate the planet, but they do, and people seem to love them because it's an American thing.
Two different ways they circulate. First of all, we have a lot of charities that send those clothes over to other countries who need them because we throw everything away here. I mean, that's another sign of our arrogance. So to just get that out of here, I don't even know if we're doing it as a good thing to clothe people. We're trying to get our trash out of here because, we don't have a lot of room. So that's one way. And then if you go to China, or other countries, there's a lot of knockoffs because they do revere our pop culture, things that happen in America. So that stuff is all over the world in the oddest places that you think you would see it.
It's interesting, but yeah, I'm okay with the casualness. Not everyone in my world and my life is, but I'm just being me, people. Merc.
Yeah. Don't you love me for me? Let me go over a list that I have here because I thought, oh, this is somewhat apropos to where we are politically, socially, in just kind of every aspect of our life. There's a lot of people that are feeling like they don't belong anywhere at this point in time, right? Where do I belong? I have these beliefs. I have these beliefs. You know, do I live down in Portland? Do I live in San Francisco? Can I go somewhere else because I have some of the same beliefs they have over there? These are reasons that people may feel like they don't belong anywhere.
And I've been feeling that way, by the way, since I moved to Nevada. I like a lot of this area. I like the ruralness. I like that I can ride my dirt bike down the street to trails and stuff that California would never let you do. But yeah, I feel kind of out of place when I'm in the grocery store or hanging out at a local restaurant or something. And it's not a good feeling, I'll tell you that.
Do you feel like you're visiting? Does it feel like home yet?
My house feels like home, but this town does not feel like home. It reminds me of Michigan in some ways that I can relate to, but the people around here, no, I don't feel friendly. I feel like I have to hide that I moved here from California. I would never in a grocery store or bar around here say anything against Trump or say Biden or like, hell no, like no.
Wow. That's interesting, dude. That is a precarious position to be in. Do you feel like people are nice, politics aside, not discussing them? Is everyone decent and nice?
For the most part, but I feel like it's because I blend in. I'm a middle-aged white dude with a beard and blue jeans, and so I kind of look like everyone else around here. But obviously, my politics are vastly different. So it's like hanging out with the apes. Like I blend in with them, so I don't draw attention to myself.
You're in the closet, somewhat. You know,
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm in the liberal closet around here.
The first one that this list has to offer is maybe you lack identity. A lot of the times we will move to a place that we identify with. When Steve lived in Lake Tahoe, he told me, oh, this is my home. This is the longest I've ever lived anywhere. This is what surrounds me. It is my identity. He struggled with it a whole bunch, moving fucking 20 miles away because there was that stark contrast of his identity was his town in some essence, right?
Yeah, no. I feel like my identity is what makes me feel like I don't belong. And when I go back up to Tahoe and it's that vibe and the mountains, like I do feel like I'm back home again as far as the people I'm around.
You can speak more openly, maybe. This is identity gives you a sense of self-purpose. It also gives you something to talk about with other people. If you don't feel like you belong, it could be because you don't know who you are and what you're supposed to be doing in that certain situation. Self-confidence is an essential trait when trying to fit in with different people.
Yeah, that implies, though, that I want to fit in down here, per se. Like, I want to be social and be polite. And, you know, if I go to a community fair, I don't want to feel like I'm going to get beat up. But do I want to conform to the conservatives? No, I don't.
Mm-hmm. That's how we started our own revolution, dude. I'm going to start moving those Democrats into where you live currently, where it's, more Republican than anywhere else. Got to get this revolution going. This talks about having a rough childhood. Childhood trauma can leave physical marks, but oftentimes the deepest cuts are those left on the inside. People who experience rough childhoods usually find it difficult to form emotional bonds in adulthood. You may not be able to feel like you fit in anywhere if you can't make some of those bonds happen.
Yeah, I mean, the deeper the trauma, the more that is probably true. I mean, I've said before, I dated a woman in Seattle that was a childhood sexual assault survivor, and she didn't feel like she fit in the dating scene or any sort of a, sexual being in herself. So, yeah, I mean, our childhood tends to define kind of the basic makeup of ourselves, and it changes maybe a little over life. But, yeah, that's a big factor as to why someone might not feel like they belong, yeah.
Yeah, it puts us, all of that puts us on a trajectory, where we're going to go in life. Some of it can change, obviously, but yeah, it sets you up for who you are, who you surround yourself with. And you can always change those things, but sometimes it's not real easy when you've had trauma. Okay.
No, and it's the old, like, racism it's not an organic thing. It's taught to you.
Yeah.
So if you grew up in a backwoods racist sort of thing, you're not going to feel very welcome living in San Francisco, you know?
Yeah. And they keep talking in this article about self-confidence, about having that confidence in the person that you are. I know that you have confidence in who you are. You think it's right and just, but being in another area like that and trying to fit in with people to say all those things out loud, I don't know if it's confidence or stupidity, you know, like know your audience.
Yeah. Nope. Absolutely.
Next one on the list, on a list of reasons you feel like you don't belong anywhere is maybe you're too independent. It's important to be independent in many facets of life. However, when it comes to building relationships, independence can sometimes be a hindrance. People who are too independent often don't let anyone in. That'll result in struggle to find their place in society. This goes back to bonds with people, finding your community. And that's where you would belong. And if you don't have definite opinions about what is right, what's just, how to treat people, how to do this, then yeah, I could see why you don't have any identity. I mean, that's obvious, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're not independent, if you're just a sheep in the flock, it's probably very easy to fit in if you're in the right community or whatnot. But it depends what sort of independent you are. If you're an independent extrovert, you may be strong in your identity, but be able to socialize and fit in just fine. If you're an independent introvert, like I tend to be, that does make it harder to get out there. But I'm just staying true to both of those aspects of myself, my independence and my introvertedness. I have to turn it on for my job when we do radio events and stuff, but that's a very conscious effort, and I still feel isolated when I do that.
Do you feel like you have to turn it on for me when we're just hanging out?
No, not at all. Nor with Kennedy or my kids. Like, no. If you're on my core inner circle, no. But if I'm at a cocktail mixer or some party someone invited me to where I don't know most of those people, it's terribly awkward for me. I definitely have to turn it on.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that a lot. There are definitely times I have to turn it on and it feels very uncomfortable to me, but it's something I know I have to do if I want to be a part of this society, right?
Right. So that's, I guess, you're kind of forcing yourself to belong, to feel like you fit in. It's almost a ruse you're doing.
And I don't understand how some people in this world have these very definite beliefs of, I don't fucking change myself for anybody. Because if I'm not being genuine to myself, then who am I? I'm not living a great life anyway. So those people I just think of as assholes for the most part. Like sometimes you got to bend and curve. That's just part of living with people, right?
Yeah. Probably a fine line between independence and assholeness.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. It's a struggle, though, either way you look at it. Next one on our list of reasons you feel like you don't belong anywhere is you've experienced a lot of bullying in your life. That makes sense to me. Most people experience at least a little bit of bullying when they're young. However, when someone experiences a lot of bullying, it can cause them to withdraw from social situations. Then when they're adults, they don't have the social skills to integrate and build relationships.
Well, that probably goes back to the childhood trauma thing, because if you're being excessively bullied, that would, of course, be a traumatic thing. And yeah, it probably does make you an introvert and make you feel like you're an outcast. You know, when I was growing up, I had this little group of these 2 or 3 stoners who, by the way, became fans of my rock band after I graduated high school and showed up to our shows. I always hated it. I mean, these were kids that would corner me and, try to kick the shit out of me. I ran away from them a few times. I mean, it was not a good thing. But I had a strong group on my own of good core friends. So I didn't feel like I didn't belong because those assholes maybe made a few school days rough on me, but I had a good core identity and good core friends. So I still felt like I fit in. But if you don't have a strong social circle and you're getting the shit kicked out of you all the time, like, yeah, that would be terrible.
It's Karate Kid, dude. I mean, look at fucking poor Daniel LaRusso, dude. I mean, that guy struggled.
Yeah, we don't all have a Mr. Miyagi to pull us out.
No.
Shit out of skeletons for us. So.
Only if we did. These are reasons you may feel like you don't belong anywhere. How about if there's been too much upheaval in your life? Change can be exciting. If you've experienced a lot of upheaval throughout your life, you hear about like army brats, stuff like that. You haven't been in a place for long enough to build some of those long-term relationships. As a result, you're not going to have a group of people where you feel like, oh, this is my home. This is where I live.
Absolutely. I can't imagine bouncing around all that much as a kid because that would have been tough to constantly trying to be rebuilding a friendship circle. And like I just said, like I had a core group. I grew up in a small town. No one ever came or left. And so I had that group. But if I was moving every year, like I don't know how you would ever feel like you belong because you almost literally don't belong there. You weren't there 6 months ago and you're not going to be here 6 months from now.
Yeah, knowing that, dude, I mean, your environment creates you, right? So have you ever met an Army brat? They are a different breed of people. Remember our old producer, Mensa? He was a different breed of person. He went from school to school, had to make fast relationships that didn't mean anything near as much as like maybe our relationship means that we've been cultivating for 20 plus years. So yeah, those people, they turn out differently. I mean, it really changes a person.
Yeah, and it probably gives them some strengths in some ways of that resilience of more having an identity on your side or your family side. But yeah, I would imagine that'd be very difficult. It's not the life I've lived. But some people, I mean, Mensa seems to have done fine with it, but others don't for sure.
But looking back on Mensa, like he was able to make those quick relationships, but don't you view him, if you think about it, as he was always a little uncomfortable?
Oh, for sure. And he's always been a lone wolf, for sure.
Yeah, seemed uncomfortable kind of in his own skin because he was having to do those things.
Yeah, he may have been compensating, picking up on that.
Reasons you feel like you don't belong anywhere. That's what we're talking about now. This one says, you aren't happy in your day-to-day life. When you aren't happy on your own, it's hard to find happiness in other people. Not only will you feel joy when you're in a crowded room, but your low mood will make it difficult to create bonds and form a sense of belonging. This article is all about being able to build community around you, and that's how you feel like you fit in. This is your home.
I was going to say, this is a mental health issue. If you're chronically depressed, of course, you're never going to feel like you fit in anywhere and you're isolated and miserable. And whether it's therapy or become a fan of, antidepressants, if you get the right mixture for you and your situation, yeah, your whole perspective on life can change. And if you're not miserable and depressed, of course, you're going to feel more like you can have friends and fit in. So I don't know if that's a societal issue, more of a mental health issue, and a good reason why we should always be telling people, like the 811 suicide line. Is it 811 or is that if you're digging your backyard?
You're going to get somebody no matter who you call, dude, and someone's always there to listen.
Yeah, call 811, even if it's just the gas line. They'll help you. So
right, yeah.
Yeah, mental health is a big problem in this country, and like with Robin Williams or something, just because you appear happy and bubbly doesn't mean you're not struggling with demons. And yeah, that'll make you feel like you don't belong on this planet, which will lead to suicide and all sorts of problems.
Yeah, it's. I like the way you wrap that up, dude. I think that's exactly right. It can lead to severe isolation, and if you are sitting in severe isolation, there may be something a doctor could do for you. So,
or listen to a podcast with a couple of buddies that you'll feel like you're part of the group, and maybe we'll save lives, Nick. Maybe we will.
One day, I always told my dad, I want to save lives. You just wait and see. So he's not here to see it anymore, but I may be doing it right now.
Well, you and I, in our years of radio, have had a couple of suicide calls where people call the DJ to either tell us they're going to kill themselves or they want to request one last song,
right?
Or two that we, talked people down and called the cops, and it was a whole thing. So yeah.
Little things add up to big things. So keep moving forward. Vote blue no matter who. We always remind you of that. See our webpage, thevocalminority.net.
Yes, find our social medias. We post a lot of good stuff. So help us grow this fine little show and share all that. And you can call our comment line. What's that number, Nick?
It's 844-48-VOCAL. Use your telephone as a microphone and get vocal. The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve.
Test 1 2, test 1 2.
Check. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve.
The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve.
Take one.